Hello YouTube, Blissful Goat back after a long time. Sorry for the absence. I've been working on a second channel with a new style of video. However, I wanted to come back to show you guys my Darklord deck profile. Now, I haven't talked about Monarch and BA, but the decks that got me really back into Yu-Gi-Oh! But this is another one that I played very early on in my second run in the game. And even though I loved it, it was never really that great. But with this new support and I suppose to splash in a bunch of engines, I think it's become a decent rogue contender. Now, before we start, one thing I want to say, this deck is not really a fully completed deck. There are a few cards I couldn't get my hands on, such as the Cambi engine. However, even without that, I still did it. The deck still did decently in my locals. And I wanted to show you guys some things I did to compensate for the fact that I didn't have some of the cards I needed. Just to prove to people that you can still build a deck you want to play if you're missing a few pieces, as long as you know how to do it properly. So that being said, let's take a look at my Darklord deck, which I'm playing with the Melodious engine. So for the new ones, cost 3 to Hootie. This is one of the best cards in the deck because basically on summon it gives you two bodies, itself and a Darklord you summon from your deck, which triggers off our next new card, Darklord Goulet, how do you pronounce his name, who summons 2 tokens on summon, and when sent to the graveyard can add you either a Darklord or even better, a forbidden card to your hand. And by the way, this one can be used with a fusion on your field to recycle one of those said cards. This gives this deck multiple access to things like Forbidden Droplet and Forbidden Crown. It also lets you unbrick your hand. What's interesting about Goulet is that effect is search on being sent to the graveyard. It doesn't matter how it's sent. So if you can foolish it to get the effect off. You can send it off of Herald of the Orange Light to get it off. You can get off of this and set it off. You can even pitch off of Darklord Eggshell to draw 2 and then get a card. This card is generally one of the nuttiest pieces of support I've seen for any deck in a long time. The problem is it can break your hands because you're usually not going to be tribute summoning this. Although one thing I was considering trying was playing the Monarch Stormforth, so I could summon this going second with an opponent's monster. But that would mean I wouldn't get the tokens, but I could still get the search if I linked it off. I decided not to in the end, but this card was still the MVP of this deck. And that's it for the new Darklord cards. For the old school ones, I'm playing, of course, 3 copies of Eggshell. This card can not only draw you 2 cards, but pitching yourself in a Darklord, again triggering this. But in addition to this, she also has the effect of a lot of old Darklords, allowing you to pay 1,000 life points to copy the effects of Darklord back row. And what's talking about that is, you get the effects without the discard or destruction costs that they have, because most of these spells and traps require you to send a Darklord from your hand or field to the grave to use. So if you can find a way to get those cards in the graveyard, like say discarding it with this card and a few others will let you play that card without the maintenance cost. Without the cost, rather. Speaking of which, one tech I tried to play was Darklord Nasten. No, this card can be summoned by pitching 2 Darklords, again, triggering off Goulet. But more importantly, it has the same effect as Eggshell, paying 1,000 to copy your Darklord back row, giving you multiple uses of Darklord cards. Now, it is true those cards go back into your deck afterwards, but with the new fusion able to set 2 from your deck, that isn't really a downside, it gives the deck more of a grind game. And finally, speaking of which, we've got Darklord Morningstar. Now, I'll be honest with you, you rarely summon this. You're using this mostly to go into the first Darklord fusion, which is a Dark Hole on summon if you make it with this. Sorry, not a Darklord, a Regeki on summon, rather. And with the ability to copy, and with the ability of the new fusion to copy things at quick play speed, it means you can Dark Hole during your opponent's turn, if necessary, along with all the disruptions this deck can play. However, this thing, if you do summon it, using the Condemned Darklord to banish for tribute summon, is a massive beater that can buff your life points, fill your grave up, potentially get hitting Goulet, and it can be used as a good finisher going second. And that is the Darklord monsters. I'm going to be honest, the one thing I would possibly add to this deck would be Darklord Ukubak, because he is a foolish burial for Darklords. Again, another way for Goulet. He also somewhat helps you get through draw and lockbird plays. As if you send this off of it, yes, they'll probably draw you out to search, but that means you then can go to Hootie to get another one for 2 tokens and play through the draw. So yeah, I may put an Ukubak in the deck going forward. For spells, we have 3 copies of the Banishment of the Darklords. This is our searcher, and again, copying this with one of our old Darklord effects, to make this heavy consistent, unless they get drolled, obviously. We can get them into the hand, and we can get them back from grave with Darklord's Contract, which not only lets you gain access to Dahuti's effect again, or Glade's effect again, but if they've been fusion summoned, we can get you access to Morningstar or the first Darklord for protection, for more cards to set, and for using other cards. Yeah, honestly, this deck is a really good grind game as long as you don't get shifted or defissured. Again, the main problem with this deck is Nibiru and Draw will mess you up quite badly, but with cards like this, Nibiru isn't a death sentence, as you can still somewhat rebuild your board. Speaking of which, we play 1 Darklord Dance. This is a Miracle Fusion, with us banish cards from our hand, field, and grave to fusion summon. And you also give them a buff, so going second, if you wipe the board with the first Darklord, this card makes it really easy to go for the OTK. Again, it can also be reused with the Darklords, but shove it back into the deck, and you've got multiple ways of searching it or drawing into it, so you don't need more than one in the deck. And speaking of one-ofs, I'm playing 1 Darklord Rebellion and 1 Enchantment. Yes, I know this should be the negate card, I don't have it yet, but this card is really good if you play it alongside IP Masquerena, as you can go, play IP, use this, steal their best monster, get rid of it with IP to make SP, and that's 2 removals, and then on your opponent's turn, you can use a Darklord effect to reuse this at the cost, take your opponent's monster, and with all your other going second capabilities, it makes a very easy OTK. And this card, of course, it's just a removal piece. This is the one you tend to reuse the most, as going first is really good disruption, and going second it'll either bait out interaction or make clearing the opponent's field easier. So that was the Darklord package, supplemented by 1 Foolish Burial. Again, sends Goulet mostly to his effect, or puts Dahuti in the graveyard if you use your normal summon on the Melodious monster. And so coming with Darklords, one of the most crazy things about Darklord is that they can search the forbidden spells. So I'm playing 1 Crown and 3 Droplet. I didn't feel the need to play more than 1 Crown because 1, it's very expensive, and 2, it actually isn't that great going second, as it's hard to do much to a crowned card to go for an OTK line. Whereas Droplet normally can shut off effects, it cuts their point in half, and can set up your graveyard. So I think this is a good ratio for the forbidden cards. You could try playing a Chalice as well if you wanted to, but I think this is the sort of line for the hand traps I run. Now my chosen engine to go with Darklord was Melodious. Now if you know me, you know I probably will be trying the Fiendsmith build sometime, but this is a card I've had for a while and wanted to try out. Now Refrain here is probably the second best card from this engine, as she can add you a Melodious card to your hand, which then lets you get this to summon another Melodious to give you link fodder, or if you have access to it, you can infuse with Melodious Concerto, which, by the way, doesn't just summon Melodious card, it summons any fairy fusion, meaning in a pinch, yes, it can absolutely get you these 2. In fact, one of my games I won on Sunday was with using this to get this out. And the best card from the Melodious engine is Ostinato, which lets you fusion summon using monsters from the to check this from the hand and deck material, meaning yes, and yes, it does require an empty field, but if you draw this, you do this first, you get access to either, again, 2 material for the Condemned Darklord or Herald, or you get the Melodious card that is a bouncing equivalent of DPE. So that's 1 to 2 disruptions before you've even gone into your Darklord combos. Generally, but also, by the way, this card can get you a decent board even through a draw knockbird. It does make your deck more vulnerable to Nibiru though, so pick your poison, I guess. And that is it for the Melodious package. Finally, got some hand traps. 3 Fualos, 3 Ash, and 3 Herald of the Orange Light, which, by the way, funny enough, can be a starter in this deck. If you use this to Herald hand trap, and send Goulet. That'll trigger Goulet. You get Dahuri, and that's your full combo from Darklords. Now, yeah, I haven't got the Cambi cards yet, with the 3 Angel Cambi and the Trickstar card. I would recommend playing those if you do have them. But I also want to point, one thing I like about this build is that I can sometimes just make a decent field and not put myself in the Nibiru range, whereas Cambi makes it very easy for the opponent to hit you with a Nibiru. I still think overall though it's worth playing Cambi if you have it, and I'll be getting it soon, so I'll probably show you an update when I have the full proper list. And that was our main deck. Let's show you the extra next. We're playing 2 of the first Darklord and 2 of Evening Star. So this is one of our best cards going second, as if you make it using Lucifer, you can, Morning Star, using Morning Star, it is a board wipe. In addition to this, it offers protection for all your fairy monsters. And during the main phase, you pay 1,000 for the old Darklord effect of topping a back row, which means if you play it along with this, you can use this, which not only gives self protection, but also sets you 2 Darklord back rows and has the Darklord spell and trap copying effect, meaning you can use this to set up one of the trap cards and a back row of your choice. So this gives you either 2 Snatch Steals or 2 Rebellions. And if you get both these out, you can play both of these twice, making it very easy to wipe an opponent's field, even if this doesn't go through. Next, we have the last Darklord card in Condemned Darklord. This card is a generic fairy link. You can use the Melodious cards to make it. Or even in a pinch, if you need to, you can use the Heralds to make it. This gives you access to any Darklord in your deck via discard. It can also flourish the Darklords. So again, another way to trigger off. Sorry, his name's blanked me again for a second. To trigger off the Goulet. However, more importantly, it also gives you a way to actually make Morningstar if you need some more damage, as you can banish 2 from your grave for a tribute summon. It also gains you life for every fairy at the end of turn, which can come up sometimes, depending on the matchup. And also, it can give you enough life to tank opponent's counter to your plays, and then gives you a chance to fight back next turn. And supplementing the link engine, we have the Protector of the Ancient Moon, which is a going second card that can pop a monster by sending a fairy, which again, the usual sends Darklord to the grave and helps clear the field. We have Herald of Mirage Lights to negate spells, which against Draco Tail is really good. It can shut off Rahu or Ketu. Against Malice, it can shut down the field spell, first use, or Mirror. Against Vanquished Soul, it can shut down their Searcher or field spell. So it's a really good card against the meta at the moment. And finally, we have SP and IP, which, I'm be honest, if I had the full deck list, I'd be playing Peacock and and a Bow, because that is definitely the better play. But with this, you can go Enchantment, steal opposing card, link it off with IP for SP to bash another card, and then potentially use this again with the Darklord, giving you a lot of board breaking potential going second. Just make sure to do this combo when you're not fairy locked. Trust me, I made that mistake once earlier rounds. Not fun. We also have 2 Super Poly targets in Garua and Mud Dragon. Honestly, if the number of Dracotail players at my locals goes up again, I'll be putting in the one that you put against them. Its name escapes me at the moment. The one that requires a dragon and a spellcaster. So I did blank on the name. It's late. I'd work today. And finally, for the Melodious ones, I'm playing one of each. Now, if you want to play the Odd Eyes package, where you make with the level 7 XC and the Fusion, you would play 2 of this to XC summon. But as I'm not playing that, I'd rather have the Graveyard Disruption against decks like Dracotail. And this is the card I mentioned that is basically a DPE. You can bounce itself any number of Melodious on the field and a number of cards your opponents control. And this gives you protection and both a summon from deck and grave. So yeah, honestly, I like these 3 because a lot of the decks that are good right now do get hit a lot by this card. However, I will say this, There are 2 decks this does nothing against, which is Vanquish Soul and, of course, Malice. So, I mean, obviously, basically, any deck that's a shifted deck, you don't play this. You just go this, and if you've got both the fusions, you make this for disruption. That's the main and extra for the side. I'm playing double Pancratops and double Fenrir for going first removal and going second removal. Also, you can use these to make the generic links before you get fairy locked. 2 draw and Lockbird. And to be honest, after my game at locals, I'm generally considering playing Cross Out as well, because draw is this deck's kryptonite. So many of the cards relying on searching or drawing that unless you open a really hand designed to beat draw, like the 2 fusion spells, for example, this can just end your turn very easily. We got the Perulias. Obviously, there's some matchups like Vanquish Soul this is pretty good against, but we don't want to main it because most decks coming from the deck these days. 3 Super Poly. I lost my 3rd when I bought it from a friend. Obviously, there's some boards that the Darklords can't really break through, and this is usually the answer to that. And finally, for another going first option, we have Stormstrike. So yeah, this deck, it's definitely not going to be meta, but it's definitely a very powerful rogue option at the moment. And I did pretty well against several meta decks like Radiant Typhoon and Dracotail. I did lose both, but they were never squashes. In fact, the only time this deck got squashed was against Malice, because D-Fisher just is a killer shot. It's a kill shot in this deck. In fact, another card I consider playing would be Fallen of the Virtuous, just to deal with that card. And I'm an idiot, that doesn't actually work. What I meant was you want Spell and Trap Destruction to deal with Fisher and Macro. So like Lightning Storm of Harpies could potentially be put in the side deck. Yeah, again, please ignore my stupidity of saying you could use Fallen with D-Fisher. Again, tired. Well, guys, thank you for watching. As far as scripted content goes, I'm currently working on, like I said, my first video for the second channel, which will be about rewriting the Yu-Gi-Oh movie, in case any of you are interested. However, the Fiendsmith video I advertised will be out in a few weeks, and from there, we'll be consistently doing more Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and I'll be doing 1 video a month on the other channel, and a few on this one. Thank you all for watching, and I'll hopefully see you guys again soon.